What? Augustus yelled in shock, with horror in his eyes. The 8th-level peak spiritual power in his body spurted out desperately, and a black glove spread out from his fists, fiercely blocked the attack of Renault's giant sword. Boom! Amidst the bombardment, Augustus was thrown heavily. In the huge impact, cracks appeared on the earth element armor on his body, and he stopped with difficulty in the void. A trace of blood slipped quietly from the corner of his mouth. Augustus had been slightly injured in the previous collision. Reno, how is this possible? Augustus shouted angrily, with disbelief and horror in his eyes. For Renault, Augustus can be said to have an extremely clear understanding. At that time, Renault was only a 7th-level low-level imperial spiritual master. He was definitely an existence that Augustus casually ravaged. Although 4 years ago, Renault, who was an 8th-level low-level imperial spiritualist, teamed up with Jason to kill Lyndon, the leader of the Decker family, who was an 8th-level intermediate imperial spiritualist. But in these years, Augustus also advanced from the 8th-level intermediate imperial spiritual master to the 8th-level peak emperor. But just like that, as an 8th-level peak imperial spiritual master, he actually fell behind in the confrontation with Renault. And was injured, which shocked Augustus. Humph. In the sky, Renault looked coldly, and his whole body burst out again, and the giant sword in his hand was aimed at Augustus and slashed down. One of the mysteries of the dark element, darkness is coming. However, before Renault could hit Augustus, an extremely cold figure suddenly rang in Renault's ears. Renault turned his head hurriedly and saw that not far away, Livon's entire body had turned into a black sun. Darkness, and black mist, with a strong murderous aura, continued to spread from his body. Die! Livonzi said ferociously, swinging down the spiritual staff in his hand. Boom! An invisible black ripple shot out from the head of the spiritual staff in Livon's hand, aiming at Renault's location and swooping away. Humph, the world of swords, destroy everything. Renault snorted coldly, and the world of swords in his hand swung down directly, colliding with the black ripples blasted by Livonzi. Two terrifying forces collided, and explosions filled the sky. The sword of the world in Renault's hand directly dispersed Livon's attack, but one of the strange soul powers was directly absorbed into Renault's body. In the sky, Renault's body swayed slightly, and he groaned. You guy, take this move from me. On the side, Hout, who came back to his senses, took this opportunity, and the sword in his hand bloomed with a dazzling brilliance. One of the mysteries of the gold system, annihilation with 10,000 swords. Countless golden sword rainbows, like a rain of arrows in the sky, swept towards Renault. At the same time, Augustus on the side also launched a fierce attack on Renault. Boom! 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 With the three people's joint efforts, explosions filled the sky. Renault kept resisting. His eyes were as blazing as the scorching sun, and there was an unyielding fighting spirit in his eyes, sweeping across invincible. Ah! Renault roared angrily, and with the golden giant sword in his hand, he aimed desperately at the 3 Augustus people surrounding him and slashed them down. Because of Renault's lack of defense, wounds quickly appeared on Renault's body, but the 3 Augustus were also frequently injured under Renault's crazy attacks. Madman, this Renault is really crazy. Seeing Renault's crazy look, Livons and others became more and more frightened as they fought, and couldn't help but curse secretly. They had never seen someone like Renault, who was so desperate to attack. Jason! Jason! Renault roared in pain, his face looking like a madman. The reason why he stayed was to buy time for Rost and others, and also to save the Kingdom of Orlando. If Augustus and others come and see that no one in the Todd family is there, and he is not here, they will definitely torture Lysant and others, and madly retaliate against the Kingdom of Orlando. But he stays, Augustus and others people will not spread the word on the Kingdom of Orlando. In addition to these 2 major reasons, there is actually another reason for Renault to stay. That's venting. Although Renault kept telling himself not to believe Jason's death, the pain still made him almost crazy. This kind of pain that is constantly being hidden makes Renault extremely depressed. At this moment, he can't wait for a battle, a life and death battle, to release his anger, release his pressure, and release everything about him. And Augustus, Liffens, and others happen to be the source of the anger in his heart and the targets for him to vent. This guy is really crazy. As the battle progressed, Augustus and others were covered with wounds, and Renault was also covered in blood. Although he was strong, there were 3 people on the other side after all, so it was inevitable that there would be negligence. Damn it, if this continues, the 3 of us may be in danger, and we will all fight for it. Livens shouted angrily. Ah! From the side, Hot roared. The secret of the gold element, the golden emperor / A dazzling golden light bloomed from Hout's body. Astonishing spiritual power elements came from all directions and entered Hout's body crazily. Pa! Infused with so much golden spiritual power, Hout's originally thin body suddenly swelled up, and the skin on his body burst out, splattering blood. His eyes were full of madness, and the gold in his hand, the sword, slashed down desperately. Boom! The spiritual energy in the whole world is boiling, and golden auroras circulate in the sky, condensing into a huge golden sword shadow, and slashing towards Renault's location. While Hot was unleashing his attack, without any regard for his own safety, Augustus was also going crazy on the side. Countless khaki light strips, like ribbons, bloomed from his body, and a tall spiritual beast appeared behind him, with its cold eyes staring intently at him. Looking at Renault not far away. The infinite spiritual power of the earth element boiled and condensed into wild beasts that exuded a terrifying aura. 10,000 beasts galloping, one of the secrets of the earth element. Augustus roared, his eyes seemed to have stars flying by, and he pointed his right hand fiercely at Renault's location. Rumble. Under Augustus' wave, these terrifying wild beasts, composed of earth elemental spiritual power, suddenly roared and rushed towards Renault crazily. The huge beast hooves collapsed and the void continued to tremble, as if the end is coming. Again. Faced with the 2 men's desperate attacks, Renault suddenly went crazy, roared in anger, and slashed down the giant sword in his hand. Boom! 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 At this moment, the sky above the royal city completely collapsed, and the aura of destruction was everywhere. The terrible power rippled, and a large number of buildings in the royal city collapsed. There were people's exclamations everywhere. Pung! Under Renault's desperate resistance, the attacks of Augustus and Hot were finally resisted by him. However, the world sword in his hand also had cracks and then shattered suddenly. Come! In the void, Renault's body shook violently, blood overflowed from the corner of his mouth, and the golden robe on his body was broken. He looked a little embarrassed, but his face was expressionless, as if he didn't care about his injuries at all, and he looked crazy. The next moment, golden light bloomed from Renault's body again, and he aimed at Hot and swiped it away. However, at this moment, suddenly, an extremely cold murderous intention enveloped him in an instant. Renault immediately turned around and saw that, not far away, Levanzi was looking at him with a pale face. His eyes were like the devil of Joyo, full of murderous intent and madness. On the spiritual staff in Levin's hand there was dazzling blood flowing, intertwined with strange runes. Terrifying spiritual power continued to spread from his body, and the shocking black mist spread. Livens looked at Renault, standing proudly in the sky, and a series of obscure and mysterious spells came from his mouth, and as the words were spoken, the dark energy in the entire world gathered crazily, and the terrifying coercion spread out, shaking the world. At this moment, Livens was like a demon from hell. Darkness, and a black mist with a strong killing aura spread out from his body. His eyes were blood red, and a cold drink came from his mouth. One of the secrets of the dark element, 9 nether hells. Boom! A black mist exuding endless destruction aura shot out from the head of the spiritual staff in Livens' hand, aiming at Renault's location and swiping away. In an instant, the entire sky was plunged into darkness, and in Livens' cold, hateful eyes, Renault was swallowed up in an instant. This trick of 9 nether hells was used by Le Fons on Jason when he was at the Genius Trial Ground. At that time, in addition to Jason, many 8th-level intermediate and high-level imperial spiritual masters who were affected were difficult to resistance, and at this moment, Levanzi launched his most violent blow at the weakest moment when the world of Renault's sword was shattered, his body was injured, and he had not had time to recover. Die! Livens shouted silently in his heart. At this moment, all the spiritual power in his body became violent. The black mist surged in the void like a tsunami, and the void in the center is where Renault is. The next moment, these black poisonous mist had completely engulfed Renault. Reno! All the people below looked at this scene and roared in their hearts, while D. Lin and others were trembling all over, with tears flowing from the corners of their eyes. At this moment, they wanted to rush forward desperately, but as the guardians of the Kingdom of Orlando, they could not. Once they went up, they would bring disaster to the entire Kingdom of Orlando. They were not afraid of death, but they cannot be regarded as sinners who have subjugated their country. In the sky, endless black mist spreads, and the aura of destruction corrodes the space into holes. Haha, die. You are the first one, and there is Wayne who is hiding somewhere. I will definitely find him and cut him into pieces. Livens uttered a vicious curse. At this moment, all the people below shed tears. However, at this moment, Golden Spirit Master's basic control secret 7th style, Golden Sword cuts the void. A cold voice came out from the black mist of nothingness. Boom! Endless spiritual power exploded, and the terrifying breath continued to radiate out. In the sky that was originally filled with black mist, the boundless mist suddenly began to shake, like a black dragon trapped in it. The water pool was constantly churning, and a series of explosions were heard at the same time. In the sky, Levanzi, who originally had a smile on his face, suddenly froze, his eyes widened, as if he had sensed something, and his eyes showed disbelief. In everyone's eyes, a golden light shines out from the boundless darkness, like the first light of dawn in the dark night, illuminating the whole world. Immediately, a golden sword energy connecting heaven and earth rose into the sky from the black mist and penetrated the sky and earth, like a divine sword connecting heaven and earth, piercing the sky. Under the terrifying power of this golden giant sword, the boundless black mist covering the sky melted away. Amidst the huge roar, the black mist continued to dissipate. The golden sword energy swept across the invincible and aimed directly at Livens' location. Attack! Seal with me! Levanzi's face was ferocious, he roared in anger, and waved the spiritual staff in his hand, constantly releasing black mist that twisted like a giant python, wrapping around the golden sword energy, and at the same time stabilizing the sword energy. The swaying black mist. On the side, Augustus and Hot, who knew that both would be prosperous and harmed, both roared in their mouths. The spiritual power in their bodies continued to surge, and they launched fierce attacks at the golden sword energy, trying to block this attack for Livens. But it was useless. Under this golden sword energy, the attacks of Augustus and Hot were instantly broken. The two of them were thrown away like kites with broken strings. Augustus was better, Nahot kept spurting blood from his mouth and was almost split into 2 pieces by the sword energy. And the black mist released by Livens, swept by the golden sword energy, was like the white snow under the sun, and it collapsed in an instant like a chicken or a dog. The golden sword energy broke through the black mist and struck directly at the black spiritual staff in Levanzi's hand. Bang! A deafening roar sounded. The spiritual staff in Livens' hand exploded instantly and turned into fragments all over the sky. At the same time, his whole body was thrown away. The black cloak on his body also exploded, and black cloth pieces filled the sky. Splashes and blood continued to spurt from his mouth, and there was a deep sword mark on his chest, reaching as deep as the bone, and blood continued to spurt out. The endless black mist dissipated, and a figure glowing with golden light slowly walked out of the void. He held an empty potion bottle in his hand, exuding an invincible aura. This figure was none other than Renaud, who was trapped earlier. Jason. Renaud walked out of the void and stared blankly at the potion bottle in his hand. His hand was trembling slightly, as if he was holding a supreme treasure. Tears kept coming from the corners of his eyes. Of slipping. This bottle of Imperial Spirit Potion was prepared for Jason when he was in the territory of chaos. Ever since he got the bad news about Jason, Renaud has been keeping it on him, thinking about people after seeing things and being reluctant to take it. Because this is the only item left to his son Jason, but now, in this life and death crisis, Renaud has taken it, and at the same time he has broken through to the seventh form of the golden sword, cutting the void in life and death. However, at this moment, there was no joy or sorrow in Renaud's heart. He just looked at the empty medicine bottle and shed tears continuously. Because this was the last bottle of Emperor-level spiritual potion that Jason prepared for him. Ah, I want you to die. The next moment, Renaud let out a crazy roar, and his whole body suddenly turned into a golden electric rainbow, aimed at Lifonz's location, and rushed towards him with a rumble. The terrifying golden sword energy tore through the sky, and the horizontal murderous aura made Augustus and others fearful. They did not dare to press forward. They could only watch Renaud rush towards Livens. Say, how is it possible? How can this Renaud be so powerful? Seeing Renaud's desperate and crazy look, Livens was immediately frightened to death, turned into a black stream of light, and wanted to escape from this place. The previous move was Livens' most powerful trick, which could easily kill some genius 8th-level senior Emperor spiritualists in the Spiritual Master Tower. However, it was ineffective against Renaud, which made Livonzi feel frightened at the same time. Also unbelievable. He couldn't believe that today the three of them joined forces to kill Renaud and Wayne. Now that Wayne was not here, the three of them were beaten to the point of defeat by Renaud alone. Completely lost my courage. Die. Seeing Livonzi's quickly escaping figure, Renaud roared, raised his hands high, and a golden sword light suddenly bloomed from his hands. The seventh secret of the basic control of a gold spiritual master, the golden sword, slashes the void. As Renaud roared, the sword light in his hand was aimed at Livens' nose. Boom! Endless spiritual power boiled, and the terrifying golden sword light cut the void into pieces and enveloped Livens. No, Livonzi, who was running away quickly in the sky, was so frightened that he screamed in agony and watched the golden sword energy fall down. Okay. Many people among the people below exclaimed in surprise, with excitement and joy in their eyes, and Lisant and others couldn't help but shout loudly. Lifonz! But Hot and Augustus were trembling with fear. Renaud was far more powerful than they imagined. If Lifonz died here today, both of them would be dead. He escaped. If his master, the spiritual master Taladamandes and the second elder, find out, I am afraid that Hot and Augustus will not be able to escape punishment. But facing such a terrifying attack from Renaud, the two of them were powerless. Just when the golden sword light in Renaud's hand was about to hit Livonzi, boom! An unparalleled terrifying pressure suddenly descended and enveloped the world in an instant. In Renaud's perception, the whole world seemed to suddenly darken, and then, a figure appeared behind Livens like lightning. His eyes were like two black scorching suns, his expression was cold, and then he caught the golden sword light from Renaud's chop and stretched out his right hand fiercely. This is a completely black palm. When it is stretched out, it seems to turn into the evil center of the entire world. Everything around it seems to disappear, and only this terrifying palm is stabbed. In everyone's eyes, the palm silently collided with the golden sword light displayed by Renaud. Pung! Silently annihilated, the golden sword light containing terrifying spiritual power in Renaud's hand suddenly shattered. The violent 20 elements of the golden spirit suddenly dissipated, and the space continued to shatter, but the figure just retreated 2 steps back. As for Livens under his protection, he was not harmed at all by this powerful wave of spiritual power. Say impossible. Renaud exclaimed affectionately. The golden sword slashes the void, which is the seventh basic secret control technique of the golden spiritual master. It is equivalent to the level of the ninth level Holy Spirit Master. With Renaud's current strength of the 8th level Senior Emperor Spiritual Master, even if the opponent is a ninth level low-level Holy Spirit Master would definitely be injured by his own attack and would not be safe. However, the opponent's previous performance shocked Renaud. Master. Seeing this figure, Li Fonzi, who was running away like crazy, was stunned for a moment, but then his face showed surprise and he spoke excitedly. Hot pays homage to the second elder Radamandes. Not far away, Hot also flew over and spoke respectfully to the figure. Augustus has met the second elder Radamandes. Hearing the names of the black-cloaked figures from Livens and Hot, Augustus' heart skipped a beat, and he hurriedly stepped forward and spoke respectfully. The figure that suddenly appeared was none other than the second elder Radamandes of the Spiritual Master Tower, Livonzi's master, the person who hunted Wayne back then, and a ninth-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master. Master, why are you here? Livens said in disbelief. You and Oat came to kill Wayne and Renaud in a car. I think that Wayne was the Ice Emperor back then. I was afraid that something might happen to you, so I followed you. Unexpectedly, the three of you even connected with this Renaud. It can't be solved, it really embarrasses Lingmauda. Radamandes looked indifferent and scolded. However, no one noticed that while Radamandes was scolding him, the spiritual power in his body was flowing to his right hand, where there was a slight wound that was slowly being repaired. Master, after hearing Radamandes' words, Livens and the others' faces were filled with shame. Let me take action. Radamandes snorted coldly, and the next moment, he took action brazenly. A huge black hand appeared out of thin air, then aimed at Renaud's location and pressed hard. Ah! Renaud roared angrily, trying to resist the capture of the black palm, but it was useless. If Radamandes was a ninth-level low-level Holy Spirit Master, Renaud might still have a chance to resist. But facing a ninth-level intermediate Holy Spirit Master, Renaud, who was an 8th-level Senior Imperial Spirit Master, had no chance at all. What's more, in the previous battle, Renaud also suffered a lot of injuries, and less than half of the battle 20 was left. Boom! In the terrifying and destructive breath, Renaud was hit hard, and blood spurted out from his mouth. His whole body was firmly held in the palm of the black hand, and he fell unconscious. Let's go! Radamandes ordered after throwing the unconscious Renaud to Livens to catch him. Master, don't we kill him? Livonzi said in confusion. And where is Wayne? Renaud won't kill him for the time being. He will pass on the news and lure Wayne over. Radamandes said coldly, and immediately looked at Lysant and others below. Tell Wayne that this Renaud has been captured by me. If he has the courage, come to the Dekra family of the Kamikaze Empire to find me. I will give him a month. After 1 month, if he does not show up, just collect the body for this Renaud. Radamandes' rumbling voice resounded over the city of Colton. Immediately, under the leadership of Radamandes, the 4 Livens instantly turned into streams of light and disappeared in the sky. The horizon. He only stabbed Lysant and others who were sitting on the ground in shock because of the terrifying power of Radamandes at the bottom of the royal city. Central Stern Continent. In the endless blue sky, lazy clouds hang lazily in the sky, blowing slowly in the breeze, and soft sunlight spreads down through the gaps between the clouds, illuminating the plains below. On top, it gives people a refreshing feeling. It is now late October, and the sunshine is still quite dazzling. The autumn solstice climate gives people an extremely cool feeling, and the weather is getting colder day by day. Just above this empty and lonely sky, suddenly there was the sound of gusts of wind piercing the sky, and the calm atmosphere was suddenly broken. Soon, 7 small black dots appeared on the edge of the sky. For a moment, finally, the black dots came with the wind, and finally turned into 7 figures with amazing auras on their bodies, whizzing past in the sky. These 7 people were none other than Jason and his party, who came out of the forbidden area of the 7-star sea. When Jason and his group came out of the forbidden land of the 7-star sea, they flew directly towards the middle of the continent without any hesitation, because the elixir master tower where Jason, Lan Yugusan and the others were located was located in a certain area here. A mysterious space. Among the 7 people in Jason's group, Jason, Lan Yugusan, Cassianus, and Edmiz are all disciples of the elixir master tower, and Wayne naturally follows Jason. The 5 of them are definitely going to the one who returned to the alchemist tower first, and the remaining Caswell and Monica, one is from the Salem Empire, and the other is from the City of Dawn. Both are on the other side of the continent, and they must also pass by the alchemist tower. Of course, in order to reassure their own forces in advance, Caswell and Monica also decided to stop at Jason and his team's station at the alchemist tower, and send messages to their own forces in advance through the spiritual communication system of the alchemist tower. Report safety. Jason, what are you talking about? Obviously, such a sensational thing happened, but the entire continent seems like nothing happened. It's really hard to understand. Cassianus broke in the sky. Calm down, he said with confusion in his tone. Yes, in my imagination, when something as big as the trial land happened, I was afraid that when I came out, the entire continent would be filled with wars and smog. I didn't expect it to be as flat as a mirror, without any trace of it. B. Demi-Eyes also walked out. What are you thinking about? I would rather be calmer. Once a war breaks out, the people who will suffer the most will be the ordinary people. Jason said indifferently, what I am worried about now is, how is the injury of the master of Bispham Tower? After meeting Wayne, Jason and the others kept rushing along the way, but they also learned from Wayne that the master of Bispham Tower was ambushed in order to rescue them. The master of the Atkinson Tower of the Spiritual Master Tower, the Holy Master Cumberbatch of the Kamikaze Empire, the Holy Master Strier of the Cairo Empire, and the Lord Scott of the Sin City were besieged and escaped with serious injuries. This incident shocked Jason and the others, and their hearts were filled with worries about the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower. Wayne also told Jason and the others about the current situation on the mainland, but it left Jason and the others quite stunned and confused. Originally, when Jason and the others thought about it, something as serious as what happened in the continent's genius trial place would have caused the entire continent to be in chaos and chaos. Not to mention Atkinson Tower Master and the others were already prepared and had planned some conspiracy. Taking the initiative to attack, even if they have no such plan, the other major forces should be extremely angry after learning the news about the genius trial place. Thunder is furious and wants to launch war sanctions against the Kamikaze Empire and the Cairo Empire. But in reality, except for the master of Bispham Tower who was seriously injured in order to rescue Jason and the others, although the entire continent is now filled with panic and undercurrents, at least on the surface, it is peaceful and there is no chaos at all. This point, which puzzled Jason and the others. If a certain force could suppress it, Jason and the others would not be surprised, but these 9 major forces seemed to have agreed upon it, and no one made any move, so Jason and the others I can't understand. But Jason and the others didn't care about everything. Each major force had its own plan. When they returned to their respective forces, they would understand what the reason was. Therefore, along the way, Jason and the others went crazy. On the road, after flying for more than 10 days, we finally arrived at the middle of the continent. As Jason and others flew by, time passed quickly like sand on the fingertips, and in the endless sky, there was a terrible whistling sound like thunder. Flash forward, and after several more hours of flying, the originally stretching mountains below finally slowly retreated. At the end of everyone's sight, a vast expanse of plains, like a screen, suddenly appeared. Came into everyone's field of vision. Looking at this somewhat familiar plain, the flying figures of Jason and others suddenly stopped, and a touch of joy flashed on their faces. After more than 10 days of flying, we finally got to the place, haha. Jason and the others had a cheerful expression on their faces. This plane was in the middle of the continent, within the sphere of influence of the Twin Towers. In the center of this plane was the spirit that Jason had come to when he participated in the Continental Elite competition. Doching. As the core city jointly managed by the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower and the Spiritual Master Tower, Lanuigusan and Cassinus and others have naturally been here, now that the Spiritual Medicine Master Shi and the Spiritual Master Tower have fallen out, no. Now that we know what kind of changes have taken place in this area, let's go and find out. Jason made a low voice. Immediately, after the 7 people looked at each other, they turned into 7 streams of light again and flew forward. If you want to enter the Elixir Master Tower, you must have a special talisman to open the space node, and although Jason and the others have a noble status in the Alchemist Tower, they don't have that kind of thing. If it were in the past, Jason and the others would only need to go to the management area of the Twin Towers in Lingdo City and find the master of the Hall of Vengeance, the management hall of the Alchemist Tower. It's okay, but under such circumstances, no one knows what kind of situation Lingdo City will be like. Although Jason and the others are strong and have nothing to fear, Lingdo City was, after all, managed by the Twin Towers. In the core area, Jason and the others would not be careless. Jason, there is a city ahead. After flying again for a while, a rather majestic city appeared in front of Jason and others. Very good, let's go and find out the news. Jason said indifferently. Immediately, the 7 people turned into 7 streams of light and flew towards the city silently. At this moment, at the foot of the city wall, several city guards were listlessly paying attention to the surroundings. And he checked some pedestrians entering and leaving the city. A breeze blew by. A young city guard who inadvertently looked up to the sky suddenly made a sound of surprise, and immediately patted the city guard captain beside him who was checking pedestrians, and exclaimed, "Captain. What's the matter?" The city guard captain turned his head and spoke. "Hi, just now, I seem to have seen a few figures flying over from the sky over there." The city guard stammered. "Someone is flying over?" The city guard captain was suddenly startled, and immediately looked to the sky. Where? Where? Those who can fly are at least 7th level Imperial Spirit Masters. Such a person in the Twin Towers area, although it cannot be said to be very rare, it does require special attention. Right there. The young city guard pointed to the sky in the distance, but he couldn't find anyone. Where exactly is it? The city guard captain was still full of vigilance. Captain, I can't find it, but I did seem to see a few black spots before, flying towards here from the mountain forest. Could it be that they have been flying past for so long? The young city guard looking at a mountain forest on the distant horizon, he made a sound of doubt. What? A few black spots flying over here from that mountain forest? After hearing the young man's words, the city guard captain's originally vigilant heart relaxed immediately, and he immediately gave the young man a hard blow. A bang. You kid, are you an idiot yourself, or do you think I am an idiot? The captain of the city guard looked furious and cursed angrily. In such a long time, it flew over from that mountain forest and passed over our heads, such a speed, even the 8th level peak Emperor Spirit Master cannot achieve it. Are you saying that you saw several 9th level Holy Spirit Masters flying over our heads, and you saw them, but I really seem to have seen it? The young city guard wanted to say something else, but was interrupted by the captain of the city guard. Okay, next time you run away, don't blame me for being rude to you. Check the person for me. You know, the adults have been very bad-tempered recently. You must not let a member of the Alchemist Tower sneak through. When the captain of the city guard scolded his men, Qidao, an inconspicuous figure with a calm body and no spiritual energy pulsating, walked into the busiest tavern in the city. These 7 people were none other than Jason and his party. Under normal circumstances, such beautiful women as Lan Yugusan and Monica would definitely attract the attention of adventurers and spiritual masters in the tavern. However, after being promoted to the 9th level Holy Spirit Master, Lan Yugusan and others wanted to. It couldn't be easier to change your temperament and appearance all of a sudden so that others don't notice. When a 9th level Holy Spirit Master wants to stand out, he can make ordinary people feel that he is the only one in the whole world. But when he wants to hide, no matter how sharp other people's eyes are, they will not have the slightest impression. It will feel ordinary and normal. Sure enough, I guessed right. Now, all the forces and members of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower in this area are hidden, which is a bit troublesome now. At a table in the corner of the tavern, Cassinus frowned. After a moment of inquiring, everyone already understood what happened in the Twin Towers area these days. At Bispham Tower Master, Atkinson Tower Master was waiting after being seriously injured in the sneak attack. The Master of Bispham Tower issued an emergency order to contain the area with thunderous force, including all the members of the Elixir Tower in the Cairo Empire and the Kamikaze Empire. Now, the entire Twin Towers in the area, there are only members of the Spiritual Master Tower, and the members of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower have all retreated and hid. Even in Lingdo City, all the staff of the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower have also retreated. In other words, now the Twin Towers area in the central part of the mainland is basically under the control of the Spiritual Master Tower at night. It's not that there is no way now, it just takes a little effort. Lan Yuigusan spoke with a sparkle in his eyes. After all, they are the core personnel of the Alchemist Tower. They also have some understanding of the secret arrangements of some emergency situations in the Alchemist Tower, such as in this city. There are definitely members of the Alchemist Tower, but they are hidden. Lan Yugusan and the others will have no problem finding them, but it will take a little time. Well, that's all for now. Jason also nodded. Hey, have you heard about it? Renault is so pitiful. His son is dead, the family is gone, and now, in a few days, even he himself will die. In the noisy tavern, a big man sitting not far from Jason and the others suddenly said, "Huh?" Hearing the name Reno, Jason and Wayne couldn't help but frown, looked at each other, and looked over. "Haha, Lao Dao, you are talking about that guy from the Kingdom of Orlando, who offended us. Who can Lord Lavanzi of the Spiritual Master Tower blame? If you want to blame his son Jason, who shouldn't have joined the Elixir Master Tower. Humph, I heard that this matter has nothing to do with Jason from the mainland elite competition joining the Elixir Tower. Haven't you heard that Lord Radamandes of our Elixir Tower and Lee Master Fonzie captured Renault from the Kingdom of Orlando and brought him back to the Kamikaze Empire in order to lure out Wayne, the Ice Emperor of the Cairo Empire? Haha, everyone, I know this. A drunken man shouted, "The Ice Wayne of the Cairo Empire killed the Hague Patriarch of the Dekrai family nearly 20 years ago. That Hague Patriarch everyone should have influence, right? He is also the core disciple of our Spiritual Master Tower, the disciple of Elder Radamandes, but he escaped, and not long ago, he appeared in the Kingdom of Orlando again, and had an affair with Renault and Jason of the Todd family. They were together, and later the Linden Patriarch of the Decker family went to seek justice, but he was killed by Renault in the Northwest countries. Now, Mr. Livens is avenging his father." The drunk man took another sip of wine. "I heard that Renault is now being held in the Decray family. Lord Livens has given a message to keep Renault alive for a month. If you don't give up, I will kill that Renault in front of many families in the Kamikaze Empire to show the prestige of the Clay family. I said this Renault is just a bastard. He insists on fighting with that Wayne mixed together. My son joined the Spiritual Medicine Master Tower again. Okay, now, it ended up like this. His son was killed by our Spiritual Master Tower, and he also lost his life. As for Wayne, he probably became a coward and refused to come out. Well, if it's Lou, he must risk his life to rescue Renault. This is a real man. Then Wayne, he's just a turtle, haha. After all, he is known as the Ice Emperor in the Cairo Empire, just because of you." The people next to me couldn't help but sneer. "What, you're not convinced?" The drunk man stood up suddenly, and the wine bottle in his hand smashed to pieces on the ground. A strong spiritual power was released from his body, and he glared at the person who spoke. Ice Emperor? Damn, what the heck, Wayne, if he walks out in front of me, I'll kick him to death, then wet him and make him become the Ice Emperor. The drunkard groaned and staggered out of the tavern. The man he had bullied before didn't say a word. Although the drunkard was arrogant, he was a 6th-level senior spiritual master. He is also a tyrant in this city, but others dare not offend him easily. There was silence on the table in the corner of the tavern, and everyone focused their attention on Jason and Wayne, even though Caswell they didn't know Renault, but when they heard the names of Jason and Wayne in the conversation, they understood everything. Let's go. Jason's face was gloomy, and he spoke coldly. At this moment, in an alley outside the tavern, the drunk man who had scolded Renault and Wayne earlier was holding on to the corner to relieve himself. Suddenly, he felt a sudden coldness. The incomparable chi locked onto him, and the chi was so strong that as a 6th-level senior spiritual master, his chest became weak. Who? In fear, the drunk man woke up half awake in an instant, and uttered a cry of horror, but he saw a young man with long black hair, staring at him coldly. Beside him, there were several other people standing. People. Tell me, what happened to Renault and Livens you just mentioned? Tell the story clearly. The black-haired young man made a cold voice, and the terrifying pressure enveloped the big man, making him tremble all over and almost fell to the ground. Under Jason's gaze, the big man swallowed hard and his body was covered with saliva. Tight, cold sweat instantly covered his forehead, and he tremblingly said, "This is what happened one by one, one by one." Radamandes, Livens. After listening to the big man's story, Jason's eyes, he was so angry that he almost burst out with fire. He clenched his fists tightly and gritted his teeth and made a sound. An indescribable terrifying aura suddenly burst out from his body. The big man opposite was frightened by Jason's aura. He sat down on the ground, trembling all over. Tell me, how much time is left until the month that Lavanzi said? Jason said indifferently. There are still 10 days left. The big man trembled with a cry, and a smell suddenly spread from his body. 10 days? Jason turned his head to look at the location of the Kamikaze Empire in the north, his eyes full of coldness. At the same time, in another hidden place in the city. Here is a rather ordinary room. In the room, floating there was a faint smell of elixir, and several middle-aged people were gathering together to discuss something. These people were the secret personnel of the elixir tower stationed in Sierra City. At this moment, the door that was originally closed suddenly opened, and at the same time, 2 figures suddenly appeared in the center of the room. Who is it? The middle-aged people were shocked. They suddenly pulled out the long swords from their waists and looked nervously at the 2 people who suddenly appeared in the room. But when they looked at it, one of the leaders was hit. The young man was suddenly stunned. Immediately, surprise and disbelief showed in his eyes, and he trembled in his mouth. Are you, Lord Cassinus? You are not in the place where geniuses are tested. Is it you? Pike? Are you the person in charge of Sierra City? Seeing the leading middle-aged man, Cassinus couldn't help but step forward and speak out. These 2 people were walking out to find Lanuigusan and Cassinus at the secret location of the Elixir Master Tower, and this Pike. Back then, Cassinus had interacted with Cassinus several times when he was on a mission outside the Alchemist Tower, and he was quite familiar with it. Lord Cassinus, I am here, you are not dead. That's great. And the person next to you, could it be that he was even more excited when he saw Lanuigusan's appearance and thought of someone's Parker? It's me, Pike. Since it's you, it's easy. Cassinus took out a jade slip from his body. Pike, I have a spiritual message here, which contains important information. No matter what method you use, will all be sent to the Alchemist Tower for me, remember? Cassinus looked solemn. Yes, Lord Cassinus. Pike carefully took the jade slips from Cassinus' hands and said, Sir, I have something else to do, so I'll leave these jade slips to you. After Cassinus finished speaking, he looked at each other with Lan Yugusin, and then the two of them disappeared into the room instantly. Lord Cassinus, don't worry, I will definitely deliver it to the tower. Pike gritted his teeth. In the room, several people looked at each other, and when they saw Cassinus, their eyes were full of excitement and excitement. In the alley outside the tavern, Jason and the others stood quietly, and the drunk Han was shivering in the well. Listen. Suddenly, two figures appeared beside Jason. It was Lan Yuigusin and Cassinus. Jason, we have finished the matter. The news that we are still alive has been sent to the elixir tower, as well as the news of Caswall and Monica. Cassinus said. Under Jason, the big man's eyes suddenly widened, and there was panic in his eyes. Very good, everyone, have you decided? Do you really want to go with me? Jason looked at the crowd and said, this time we are going to the Kamikaze Empire. Ladamandes is okay, but we once exposed, the Kamikaze Empire and the Spiritual Master Tower will definitely take action. By then, he may be in danger. Jason, you don't need to say any more, the danger is nothing. Without you, we would have died long ago. Now, the Neridamandus and the Decre family dare to attack your father. This time, we will let the people from the Kamikaze Empire and the Spiritual Master Tower know what they should not do. Zhongxi Wu said coldly. Everyone nodded. Well, there is not much time, so let's set off now. Jason spoke with murderous intent in his eyes. The big man who was slumped there had his eyes wide open and his heart was filled with shock. At this moment, he didn't know where the strength came from. The whole person suddenly stood up and rushed outside. However, before he could take 2 steps a middle-aged man suddenly appeared in front of him and stared at him coldly. You, the big man's eyes widened. Remember, my name is Wayne. The middle-aged man said coldly, and a blue light suddenly flashed in the air. In an instant, the big man's entire body turned into an ice sculpture. Pung! The next moment, the ice sculpture suddenly exploded and turned into ice slag all over the ground, and the big man also turned into powder. Okay, slightly. A breeze blew by, and in the alley, the figures of the 7 Jasons had disappeared. This time, the Kamikaze Empire. The arrival of the 7 of them will surely set off a violent storm that will shake the continent. When the elixir master Tabassum Tower, the great sage of the Salem Empire, McGrady, the supreme elder of the Guras family, and the Lord of Dawn of the City of Dawn left their respective territories at the same time, they went to the Kamikaze Empire. In the Kamikaze Empire, outside the Kiro province, 7 figures exuding a terrifying aura stood proudly in the sky, staring at the endless plain in front of them, their eyes filled with cold murderous intent. Kiluo province, the residence of the Decre family, should be in Jike City, the provincial capital of Jilua province. Among the 7 people, the leader is a young man with long black hair, holding a black heavy sword. He looked coldly at the end of the distant plain, his eyes full of coldness. Jason, there is no need to say anything. When we arrive at Najik City, we will immediately take action to rescue Uncle Renault, and then remove Elder Neridamandus and the Decker family from this continent completely. Erase. Cassinus said with cold eyes. These 7 people were none other than Jason and his party, who had come all the way from the middle of the continent. Fortunately, there is still 1 day left. We still have time. We will arrive in Najik City later. Don't rush to take action. Listen to my order and rescue my father first. Jason said indifferently. This is natural. Lan Yugusin nodded and said, everyone, our first goal on this trip is to save Uncle Renault, and the second goal is to kill Elder Neridamandus and the Dekir family. Everyone, don't remember it wrong. Don't worry. Everyone agreed. Okay, let's go now. Jason said coldly, and immediately, 7 shadows flashed across the sky like lightning, flying towards Kike City, the provincial capital of Najilua province. Hilo province, Jike City, deep inside the Decker family mansion. In a dark and cold room, a tall man with an upper body and a barbed iron whip was waving the whip in his hand, hitting Renaud hard in front of him, and next to him, the leader of the Livens clan of the Decker family, was looking at Renaud coldly, his eyes as cold as knives. At this moment, Renaud's robe was extremely damaged. His body was dripping with blood, with dazzling blood marks, and wounds all over his body, giving people a horrible feeling. "Tell me, where is Wayne?" The big man had a ferocious look on his face, his eyes widened, and he roared. In front of him, Renaud grinned, covered in blood and flesh. The robe he was wearing had long been stuck to the bloody wounds on his body. On his shoulders, legs, and under his ribs, there were 6 strange streaks. The iron nails of the breath pierced Renaud's body deeply into his body. Blood flowed down his body, gathered at his feet, splashed on the ground, and meandered on the cold ground. A bloody stream is shocking. Haha. Faced with the roar of the big man, there was no trace of pain on Renaud's face. He didn't even frown. His face was covered with blood, and his facial features were almost completely covered with blood. They were all covered, but there was no sign of fear on his face. The corners of his mouth were curled up with a hint of ridicule, and what was revealed in those eyes was unyielding will. "Livens, I advise you to save your energy. If you have the ability, kill me. When the time comes, someone will definitely avenge me. Not only you, but also your entire Decre family will die, haha." Renaud looked at Livens and sneered. "You're looking for death." The big man on the other side was furious. He saw the leader of the Livens clan next to him. After seeing that he didn't express anything, he hit him hard again with the barbed whip in his hand. Bang! 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 The harsh sound of whipping sounded loudly in the room. Fresh wounds appeared again on Renaud's previously blood-stained body, piece by piece. Flesh and blood were brought out by the barbs on the iron whip. Originally, with the strength of Renaud's 8th-level senior imperial spiritual master, an ordinary iron whip could not cause him any harm at all, but Renaud was seriously injured and at the same time his spiritual power was sealed by Radamandes with his special hand. At this moment, the strength of his body has been reduced a lot. The iron whip with barbs can easily tear open his body, leaving bloody wounds on his skin. However, Renaud gritted his teeth and didn't even frown. Let me do it." On the side, Livens snorted coldly when he saw this scene. He took the iron whip in the big man's hand, and the spiritual power in his body circulated. Suddenly, black streaks appeared. The strange spiritual power wrapped around the iron whip like mist. With a ferocious smile on his face, Livens swung the iron whip in his hand heavily. Pa! 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 Amidst the sound of the whip, traces of strange black mist, like tarsal maggots, stayed on Renaud's wounds, corroding Renaud's flesh and blood. Chi! Chi! In the harsh sound, streams of green smoke suddenly appeared from Renaud's wounds. The wounds that were bleeding with donated blood turned black and gave off a fishy smell. Ha, Harry Fong Zi, if you dare, beat me to death, you coward, you piece of trash. Renaud laughed. The severe pain made his body unable to bear it. Renaud could still endure the pain, but Livens' dark energy struck him directly on Renaud's soul every time. The pain made his expression distorted, and he couldn't help but feel in his eyes. Shed tears. Beat you to death? Don't worry, there are still 2 days, I will torture you well, let you know the consequences of offending me, Li Fons, and that Wayne, do you still expect him to avenge you? This a coward doesn't even have the courage to come here to save you, so what kind of future can he have? What a waste. Livens stopped lashing the whip in his hand and made a cold sound in his mouth. Immediately, he took out a transparent glass from his bottle, and then poured a few drops of the black liquid into the bucket soaked with iron whips. In the bucket, the calm water suddenly boiled, emitting a pungent smell. Wow! Livens sneered and poured all the water in the bucket onto Renaud in an instant. Ah! A painful scream resounded in the torture chamber. The skin on Renault's body instantly festered, making constant she sounds and bubbles. The pain constantly stimulated Renault's nerves, which made him, a man with a will as firm as steel, couldn't help but howl in pain. How about it? Renault, as long as you tell me where Wayne is, I can put an end to it so that you will no longer endure such pain. Livens said. Bah. Livens' response was a mouthful of bloody phlegm and Renault's glare. Renault, who had no fear in his heart and only wanted to die, never spoke even in such pain. In fact, these pains are actually severe, but they only affect the body. For Renault, the pain he is enduring now is nothing compared to the pain of receiving the bad news about Jason. Damn it! Livens said angrily, looking at Renault with murderous intent in his eyes. He wished he could slap Renault to death now, but before the time came, Livens still held back the murderous intention in his heart. Humph, I will let you live for one more day. Tomorrow, I will kill you on the spot in front of all the major forces in our kamikaze empire to boost the dignity of my Decker family. Livens said coldly, and then turned around and left the torture room. At this moment, the Decker family mansion was full of people and noisy. Haha, Chief Brachi, you're here so soon? Chief Luomi, you're not too late. The chiefs of the major families in the kamikaze empire were greeting each other enthusiastically. Communicating between. In order to revive the family's prestige this time, after capturing Renault, Livens invited members of all the major families in the kamikaze empire to congratulate him on his recent ascension to the position of family patriarch. His real purpose was to make the major families, the family saw him kill, that Renault in front of everyone. Over the years, many twists and turns have occurred in the Decrete family. When Patriarch Haig was here, the Decret family was at its peak. It once became one of the most famous families in the kamikaze empire. It was extremely arrogant, but then with the death of Patriarch Haig, the Decret family gradually declined. However, because of the existence of Patriarch Linden, they were not overly aggressive and suppressed, but they were no longer as unscrupulous as before. With the death of Patriarch Linden, the Decret family fell completely. In the past few years, the family's situation has gone from bad to worse. Because of its arrogance and domineering, it was suppressed and competed by the major families of the kamikaze empire. The Decker family has gradually declined into a second-rate family. But now, with the strength of Livens, the Decret family has risen again. This makes his family, which he once offended, extremely uneasy. In fact, Li Fan's alone is not enough to make many families in the kamikaze empire fear him. However, the thought of the figure of Elder Taladamandes, the spiritual master behind Li Fan's, makes many families feel a little scared. Terrified. This time, in order to scare the monkeys and revive the family's prestige, Livens deliberately chose this time to invite all the major families in the empire to attend the grand banquet where he ascended to the position of patriarch. His real purpose was I want to use this method to let all the major families fully see how tough and ruthless they are. For Qianli Fanzi's invitation, the patriarchs of the major families in the empire rushed over in time. Even for the top families in the empire, the patriarchs did not come, but they arranged for the elders and others to come. They could not give face to Levanzi, but they had to give face to Elder Radamandes behind Levanzi. In addition to personnel from major forces in the kamikaze empire, the core disciples of the spiritual master Pagoda from the Cairo Empire and Augustus from the Daos family were also among the crowd at this moment, chatting enthusiastically. Because of their special identities, the two of them have also been praised and made friends by many forces. Needless to say, Hot, who is also a core disciple of the spiritual master Pagoda, is not much different from Levanzi, and his family is also quite famous in the Cairo Empire. As for Augustus, his status as a member of the Daos family, one of the four major families in the Cairo Empire, makes many forces dare not underestimate him, not to mention his 8th-level peak strength. This alone is enough. Let the vast majority of the forces present be contented to be defeated. In Stern Continent, except for the 9th level Holy Spirit Master who basically does not show up, the 8th level Peak Emperor Spiritual Master can be regarded as the top combat power on the continent. Any 8th level Peak Emperor Spiritual Master can do it as long as he is willing. A top family was established in the 4 major empires of the mainland. Therefore, compared to young people like Hot, Augustus was sought after with even greater enthusiasm, which made him feel extremely proud. This kind of treatment is something he has never enjoyed in the Cairo Empire. The only thing that makes him dissatisfied is that until now, Wayne has not arrived. When he went to the Kingdom of Orlando, Augustus had already agreed with Lavanzi that if he met Wayne, he must take the lead. 8 years ago, Wayne single-handedly turned the tide and defeated him and Sally. The cooperation between the two elders made Augustus always hold a grudge and became extremely angry. Just as the major forces in the Kamikaze Empire were talking to each other in the hall, the door inside the hall creaked open, and the protagonist of this gathering, Livens, walked out. Immediately after he spoke about the knowledge of the Fonzie clan, a large group of people came forward to greet him. Although Lifonzi came out alone, everyone knew that Elder Radamandes of Lingi Tower was in the city of Kike. However, as a 9th level Holy Spirit Master, he would naturally not come out to meet everyone. Just as the major families in the Kamikaze Empire were facing Livens one by one, Livens, get out of here and die. A rumbling roar sounded like a thunderbolt from the blue, over the entire Decker family mansion. The roar resounded and instantly spread throughout the entire Jilua province provincial capital, Jike City. The angry voice mixed with powerful spiritual power echoed over the entire Kike City, making everyone's eardrums tremble. The terrifying aura contained in it was like a sharp blade, piercing everyone's heart. Who is shouting outside? Is that Wayne here? The originally noisy hall suddenly became quiet, and everyone looked at Livens with surprise on their faces. Lafonzi, it's Cheyenne. Augustus would never forget this cold voice, and he couldn't help but utter a cold voice. Wayne? Are you finally here? A sneer appeared on Livens' lips. In the hall, Augustus, Hot, and Livens looked at each other, and immediately said whoosh. 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 The 3 of them turned into 3 streams of light and rushed out of the hall like lightning, and the other patriarchs of the major forces in the Kamikaze Empire in the hall, all with expressions of shock and excitement in their eyes, followed the 3 people and rushed out of the hall one after another. At the same time, in the living room of the Lord's Palace of Jike City and the governor of Jilua Province, 2 figures talking to each other also stopped. During the conversation, his eyes seemed to be solid, looking through the endless void to the sky above the Decre family mansion. Elder Radamandes, I didn't expect that Wayne actually came. How brave he is. One of the figures said with a smile, that Wayne is known as the Ice Emperor. He became famous very early in the Cairo Empire. There are still some, he has a certain level of strength. How about we go out now and take charge of your disciple Lavanzi? Elder Salskjaer, no need for the time being. Radamandes sneered, then Wayne 18 years ago, my strength is completely ruined and I have become a useless person. Even if I recover now, I guess I won't be very strong. My disciple should be able to handle it. Let's wait and see. That's okay. The old man said with a smile, but it was no more talking. This old man is Elder Salskjaer of the Holy Land of the Kamikaze Empire, a 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Master. As the 2nd elder of the Spirit Master Tower, Radamandes came to the Kamikaze Empire for personal matters, but as a member of the United Both Sides, the Holy Land of the Kamikaze Empire, still sent Elder Salskjaer to make arrangements. However, Elder Salskjaer represents the Holy Land of the Kamikaze Empire, so the meeting place between the 2 parties is not at the Decker family, but at the governor's residence of Kilo Province and the Alkali Lord's mansion in Jike City. Thunderous shouts, mixed with terrifying spiritual power, echoed in every corner of the entire Kike City. At this moment, all the people in the entire Kike City came out one after another, raised their heads, and turned their eyes to in the sky above the Clay family's mansion. A middle-aged man wearing a blue robe was looking at the people in the Clay family below with cold eyes. In the courtyard, Augustus's face immediately showed a hint of excitement. A sneer appeared on the corner of his mouth, and he said to Le Fons, "This is Wayne." Wow! In the courtyard, after hearing what Augustus said, many people made noises and excited discussions with each other. After Le Fons's publicity, in the past month, almost all the major forces in the entire continent have known about the grievances between the two sides. They also understand that the reason why Le Fons brought Renault back to the Kamikaze Empire was to draw out the former Ice Emperor Wayne of the Cairo Empire. Now, this Wayne has actually come, making everyone present understand that a war is coming. In the sky, Wayne looked at everyone below with cold eyes. "Which one of you is Livens? Get out of here. Why, weren't you the one who brought me here? Now that I'm here, why don't you bring me here? Let me go, Renault, and come out and die." Wayne's cold voice resounded over the entire city of Kike. "Haha, I really didn't expect that you would actually come here to die." As Wayne's words fell, 3 figures slowly rose up from the mausoleum below. They were Augustus and Le Fonzi and Hot. "Are you Wayne? Was it you who killed my grandfather Hague?" Livens said with a cold expression. "Hage, I don't know who the Hage you are talking about is, but if you are asking about the trash who was beaten into ice slag by me on Tandy Mountain, then I tell you, it was me." In the sky, Wayne sneered. "Make a sound. Asshole, you're looking for death." After hearing Wayne's words, Levanzi's face was filled with anger and embarrassment. The terrifying spiritual power was released from his body, covering the surface of his body with a layer of anger. A layer of black mist gauze. His expression was cold, and his eyes were full of coldness. "Wayne, you can only succeed. If you lose your tongue, today will be the day of your death. Livens, let me come." On the side, Augustus smiled. "Wayne, do you still remember me?" Augustus slowly flew forward and sneered. "Augustus? You are here, very good. If you are here, I will not have to go to the Cairo Empire to kill you. And you should be Hot, right? It's very good. There are 3 people, not one of them is missing, and where is Radamandes? Get out of here, too, so that I can go find you one by one, so I can solve them all at once here to save you trouble." Wayne said coldly. "Haha, Wayne, you are still so arrogant when you are about to die. It is simply ridiculous. Today, I, Augustus, will avenge me 8 years ago and let you know the consequences of offending me, Augustus. What will happen if I offend you?" Wayne looked at him coldly, with incomparable disdain in his eyes. "You're looking for death." Augustus was completely angered by Wayne's attitude. The 8th level imperial spiritual power at the peak erupted from his body instantly. He raised his right hand suddenly and aimed at hit Wayne with a heavy punch. While Wayne Tion was confronting Livens and others, no one paid attention to the fact that 6 figures had quietly sneaked into the residence of the Zidikar family. They walked all the way inward and quickly reached the deepest part of the Dekray family mansion. These 6 people are none other than the Jason 6. It should be here. Jason, Lanyu Gusen and others looked at each other, opened the door of the torture room, and then flew in. Before entering Kike City, Jason and the others had agreed to let Wayne attract the other party's attention while the rest found the whereabouts of their father, Reno. This is not because Jason and the others are afraid of each other, but because they are afraid that once the other party knows their strength, they will use their father as a shield, putting his father in danger. In the torture chamber of the Dekray family mansion, Renault, who heard Wayne's roar, did not have any joy on his face, but instead showed worry. Why is Wayne back? Elder Radamandes, from the Spiritual Master Tower, is also here. The purpose is to wait for him here, he sighed. Haha, stinky guy, what's wrong? Look at you with an expression like his parents are dead. Do you know that even if your partner comes here, he will be killed by Mr. Livens here today, haha? In the execution room, seeing Renault's worried expression, the big man who continued to torture Renault burst into laughter. He raised the spiked iron whip in his hand high, and just about to swing it at Renault, he found that Renault's worried expression instantly froze when he was nailed to the wall, and he stared blankly at the door of the execution room. Direction, with an indescribable expression in his eyes. It was a look that was a mixture of excitement, joy, disbelief and many other emotions. Jason Renault was completely stunned. The corners of his mouth wriggled and he murmured unconsciously. He wanted to say something, but he couldn't. The father's love was speechless. The corners of Renault's eyes were silently moistened with tears, instantly rolled down from his eyes. At the door of Father's torture chamber, Jason stared blankly at Renault, who was covered in blood and his wounds were almost rotten. Seeing his father's miserable appearance, Jason, who had always been extremely strong, couldn't help but feel soreness in his nose and tears. It also fell all at once. Whoosh! The next moment, Jason had arrived in front of Renault. With trembling hands, he scratched his father's scarred body. An indescribable pain suddenly emerged in Jason's heart, as if there was a needle stirring violently in his heart. The pain made Jason almost breathless. This is the spirit sealing nail. Jason's hands touched the black nails that nailed Renault into the wall. His eyes were filled with distress. Immediately, his hands jumped and instantly removed the 6 spirit-sealing nails on Renault's body. All the nails were pulled out and he hugged Renault, who was covered in pus and blood. Jason, I wasn't dreaming. You weren't in that trial place. No, you didn't die. If you didn't die, I knew how my son could die. Renault said excitedly, he grabbed Jason with trembling hands and was a little incoherent. Because of the torture he suffered these days, Renault's body was already scarred, and he was extremely weak. It was difficult to even hold things. But at this moment, he didn't know where the strength came from, allowing him to hold on to Jia tightly. Sen refused to let go. At the entrance of the execution room, Lan Yugusan and others saw Renault's miserable appearance, and their hearts were filled with sadness. Father, there is a bottle of healing potion here. Take it quickly. Jason hurriedly took out a bottle of spiritual potion that exuded amazing spiritual power fluctuations and poured it into Renault's mouth. As soon as the spiritual potion entered Renault's mouth, Renault felt like there was a warm current in his body, slowly swimming around, quickly spreading to the meridians throughout his body, repairing his injuries at an extremely fast speed. Body of. At the same time, Jason was also running the wood spirit beads in his mind, releasing powerful wood vitality and instilling it into Renault's body. Jason, I'm coming too. On the side, Monica also took a step forward, and a dazzling light suddenly bloomed from her body. A soft white light full of divine power continued to fall into Renault's body. On the outside, Renault's body, which had been corroded by the dark power, suddenly recovered gradually. The dark spiritual power remaining in Renault's body was gradually dissipated, and new ones grew. Muscles and skin. In just a moment, Renault's originally scarred body recovered most of it. But Jason knew that this was just the surface. His father's injured body was too serious. Even the 8th level Emperor level healing potion could not cure him in a short time unless he used the 9th level Holy level spiritual potion. Otherwise Renault will need at least several months of recuperation before he can fully recover his body. Who are you? Come to the human torture chamber. When Dacha saw this scene, he couldn't help but be shocked, and he shouted loudly. However, before he could say the words, Jason's eyes instantly changed. Looking over, a terrible coercion instantly fell on the big man. The big man opened his eyes wide, with fear in his eyes, and immediately said, "Pung." The whole body of the big branch suddenly exploded and turned into a pile of blood, with no bones left. Father, I'm here. Everything is over. I will not let anyone who hurts you go. Jason's eyes showed boundless anger, and he spoke coldly. Jason had never been so angry before, as he was at this moment. An uncontrollable fire of forgiveness was burning in Jason's chest, wanting to burn. Do everything. At the entrance of the torture chamber, Lan Yugusan and others also had cold eyes and boiling murderous intent. Outside, over the Decre family mansion, Augustus, who was furious with shame, aimed at Wayne and punched him hard. Boom! His punch blasted out, and there was a deafening loud noise in the void. It was as if the entire Jike city was shaken by this blow. For a moment, the earth spiritual elements in the entire world were violent. Countless gray earth elements filled the sky, and the terrifying pressure spread across the sky and the earth. At this moment, everyone in Kike City felt breathless, as if they were being suppressed by a big mountain. I can barely breathe. One of the secrets of the earth element is the fist of destruction. Augustus's eyes glowed with divine light, and he roared. Endless earth elements boiled. In everyone's shocked eyes, a huge fist of earth elements condensed in the void and aimed at Wayne. Wherever it is, it attacks fiercely. This is a dark elemental fist, with terrifying earth elemental mysteries flowing around it. The powerful and terrifying aura spreads out, and wherever the black earth elemental fist passes, the void, a huge hole, was directly exploded, and the flow of space particles passed by, annihilating it. Boom! The terrifying fist of the earth element, packed with irresistible pressure, was like a train, rumbling towards Wayne's location. Just die. Augustus's eyes were full of ferocity, and he roared. Augustus has been waiting for this day for 8 years, and now he has finally waited for this moment, and Augustus has no hold on him. In an instant, he unleashed his strongest combat power. In one move, he was seriously injured, defeated Wayne, and completely washed away the shame he had suffered from Wayne 8 years ago. Oh my God, this Augustus deserves to be the 8th level peak Imperial Spiritual Master. It's so terrifying. This kind of strength, this kind of understanding of the elements, is simply indescribable. It's really scary. Then Wayne will be in trouble. Although he was once known as the Ice Emperor and was famous in the Cairo Empire, he was once deposed after all. I'm afraid he can't stop such a powerful blow from Augustus. Look, Wayne didn't even move. He was probably shocked by Augustus's strength. Below, seeing Augustus' terrifying attack, the heads of major families and many people screamed and made noisy discussions. In everyone's shocked eyes, Augustus's powerful fist of destruction came to Wayne in an instant. Just when everyone thought that Wayne was going to be injured by a punch and completely defeated, Wayne, as the person involved, faced the swiftly attacking earth elemental fist, but his face showed no expression at all. Augustus, with this little strength, you dare to take action in front of me? Wayne sneered. Back then, I could defeat you, and now, I can also defeat you. In the sneer, Wayne's right hand was slightly raised. Suddenly, the whole world changed. The world that had turned gray due to Augustus's fierce attack suddenly seemed to have arrived in the coldest month of winter, and the endless boiling earth elements seemed to have been frozen and lost their vitality. In everyone's astonished eyes, a huge palm with a radius of more than 10 feet, made of ice, quickly condensed in front of Wayne's right hand. Then, under Wayne's light wave, with the momentum of crushing everything, it hit the earth elemental destruction fist, condensed by Augustus hard. Boom! Kaka! A giant palm of ice and a fist of black stone collided directly in the void. A terrible explosion sounded. In the eyes of everyone who was surprised, stunned, and dull, Augustus, the fist of Tu Laosu, which was used with all their strength, was like an egg hitting a stone, or like a wave hitting a dam. A large number of cracks appeared in an instant, and immediately one by one, pung. Augustus used the earth element fist. The fist instantly disintegrated and collapsed, turning into the power of the earth element that filled the sky, and slowly dissipated into the air. But the giant ice palm that Wayne had married remained unabated, as if it was not affected at all. It aimed at Augustus, crushed him hard, and slapped him hard. Boom! Amidst the huge roar, Augustus, who had been floating in midair with a domineering attitude and looked down upon everything, was suppressed heavily at the next moment and was directly crushed into the rock formations below. Augustus, I thought you had made some progress over the years, but I didn't expect you were still such a waste. I'm really disappointed. Wayne was floating in midair, expressionless, looking coldly at being crushed by the giant ice palm. Augustus, who fell into the ground, said indifferently. Hiss. In an instant, there were gasps of air conditioning in the whole place. Everyone looked at Wayne floating there quietly with dull eyes, with a look of incomparable horror in his eyes, not far away. Lee Fons and Oat also looked pale. Pfft. Underneath, Augustus kept spitting blood from his mouth. He stood up with difficulty, almost unsteady, and looked at Wayne in the sky with disbelief on his face. Full of horror. In his script, today was supposed to be the day when he would be invincible in front of everyone, defeat Wayne, and get back to where he was 8 years ago. However, he didn't expect that now, with all his strength, he could even defeat Wayne's move. It was difficult to catch it, which made Augustus feel extremely shocked. Wayne, you are not an 8th level Imperial Spiritual Master. His eyes widened and he spoke in shock. 8th level Imperial Spirit Master? I'm no longer that. Wayne said indifferently. The next moment, his eyes fell on Lee Fons and Hot. You too, go to hell. A cold light flashed in Wayne's eyes. He turned his right hand and without any hesitation, he aimed at the two of them with a palm strike. Not good. In the sky, Hot and Livens exclaimed with fear on their faces. At the same time, Radamandes and Salskjer from the city lord's palace in the distance also exclaimed, and then disappeared into the living room at the same time. After Wayne defeated Augustus with one blow, he did not attack him twice. Instead, he aimed his palm at the location of Hot and Livens in the sky and struck hard. Boom! Wayne clapped his palm, and the sky and the earth changed color. Endless snowflakes scattered between the sky and the earth. For a moment, the entire city of Kike seemed to have gone from the autumn of October to the coldest month of winter. The temperature dropped by dozens of seconds. The goose feather-like heavy snow spread down, shocking everyone present. In the terrifying ice spiritual power, a huge ice palm condensed and struck directly at Hot and Livens. Facing such a terrifying attack from Wayne, the expressions of Hot and Livens changed instantly. Ah! Feeling Wayne's powerful attack and seeing the previous ending of Augustus, Hotter, who was extremely frightened, immediately went crazy and roared. One of the secrets of the metal system, 12 Golden Emperor / A dazzling golden light bloomed from Hout's body, and astonishing spiritual elements came from all directions, entering Hout's body crazily. Hot's originally thin body suddenly swelled up, and the skin on his body cracked due to the violent metal elements, splattering with blood. His eyes and spleen were full of madness, and the golden sword in his hand was slashing desperately. Fall. Boom. The golden spiritual power in the whole world was violent. Golden auroras circulated in the sky, condensing into a huge golden sword in Hout's hand, and struck hard towards Wayne's location. Facing Wayne's powerful attack, Hout desperately released his strongest attack, because he knew that only in this way could he have a chance of survival. Elder Radamandes of the Spiritual Master Tower was nearby. As long as if you hold on until he comes, you will survive. At the same time, Lavanzi, who was not far behind Hot, also tried his best to launch the strongest attack. 9 hells, one of the secrets of the dark system. Livens' eyes were red, and he let out a cold shout. A black mist exuding endless destruction was released by him in an instant, aiming at Wayne's location fiercely. The ground swept away. In the eyes of the heads of the major families and all the people below, a golden sword shadow and a black mist exuding a destructive aura quickly combined and collided with Wayne's giant ice palm. Together. Buzz. The void trembled, and the terrifying aura spread out. In everyone's shocked eyes, Wayne's huge ice palm trembled gently in the void, rippling out ripples of nothingness and passing through the mist. The shadow of the golden sword was covered with a layer of black mist. The phantom of the golden sword also trembled slightly. Immediately, with a pung sound, the whole thing turned into golden fragments and disappeared in the air. At the same time, the powerful dark attack released by Fingzi also collapsed instantly. destroyed. The huge ice palm continued unabated, swatting away Haut's attack with one blow, and then struck hard at Haut, who was not far away. At this moment, stop. A roar with a terrifying aura, like the wrath of thunder, resounded loudly over Kike City. The roar was like thunder, rumbling and rolling, shaking all the people in Kike City. Their eardrums were hurting and their bodies were trembling. Many ordinary people in Kike City turned pale and fell to the ground under this shout. As thunder roared, two black figures, like auroras, flew out from the city lord's palace in Kike City, and flashed across the sky over Kike City like lightning, trying to get to the location of the battle. But it was useless. Hearing the roar of the unknown strong man, Wayne paid no attention to it. A sneer formed on the corner of his mouth, and he patted it down mercilessly with his palms. Boom! The terrifying ice giant palm crashed down directly, hitting him hard in Haut's eyes full of fear and horror. Pung! Under this huge ice palm, Haut, an 8th-level intermediate emperor spiritual master, exploded like a mosquito caught in a fly swatter and turned into a cloud of blood mist. The giant ice palm struck Haut away with one blow, without any pause. Under Wayne's attack, it flew towards Lavanzi, who was pale and unable to fight back. Just when the giant ice palm was about to hit Lavanzi, the leading one of the two Aurora finally arrived in front of Lavanzi. Boom! An unparalleled terrifying pressure suddenly descended and enveloped the entire world in an instant. This black figure appeared behind Livens without any hesitation. With an angry look on his face, he aimed at the giant ice palm released by Wayne and directly stretched out his right hand. As soon as the dark palm was stretched out, it seemed to turn into the core of the entire world. Everything around it seemed to disappear, leaving only this terrifying palm. In everyone's eyes, the palm silently collided with the giant ice palm cast by Wayne. Pung! There was a silent collision, one dark, one azure, two palms, condensed with different attributes, trembling in the void, releasing terrifying and astonishing energy to each other, and instantly appeared on both palms. Countless cracks were opened, and finally, the giant ice palm released by Wayne was slightly inferior. Under the bombardment of the black palm, the whole thing exploded. After the black figure appeared, he defeated Wayne's attack with one blow, and then without any hesitation, he directly controlled the black palm, aimed at Wayne's location and struck hard. This is to take advantage of the victory and defeat Wayne with one move. Humph! Wayne snorted coldly. Two blue rays of light burst out from his eyes. A hazy ice sword as thin as cicada wings suddenly appeared in his hand, aiming at the crushing black sword. He slashed out with a sword from his palm. Lie! A sword was slashed out, and the brilliant light covered everything. The sky and the earth instantly lost their color. A blue aurora connected the sky and the earth bloomed from the ice sword that Wayne slashed, and slashed at that place instantly. On black palm. Amid the huge roar, the black palms and the blue aurora exploded and turned into nothingness in the void. A terrifying spiritual storm swept through the sky above Kike City, as if it had passed through a hurricane. In the void, Wayne and the figure that suddenly appeared looked at each other, with endless killing intent blooming from both sides. Hey! At this moment, another figure also arrived, appearing next to Radamandes in an instant. His face was ashen. It was Salskjer, the elder of the Holy Land of the Kamikaze Empire. Okay, very good. Looking at the blood mist floating in the sky after Haut was killed, Radamandes looked at Wayne with murderous intent, his expression cold. He already knew it when Wayne showed up and roared loudly, but he didn't show up in time because he wanted to let Fons and others practice. Moreover, Augustus had already, as I said, Wayne asked him to deal with it first. In addition, Radamandes was also confident in his own strength, so he didn't show up immediately. But he didn't expect that Wayne's strength was so strong. He severely injured Augustus, an 8th-level peak Imperial spiritual master, with one strike, which shocked Radamandes. However, what he didn't expect was that Wayne, who injured Augustus with one move, did not pause at all, but directly attacked Haut and Livens. Radamandes thought of rescuing him at this time, but it was already too late. Even if he was as powerful as him, he could only watch Hot being killed by Wayne with one move. Fortunately, he finally, at the moment when Wayne rushed over before killing Lavanzi, Radamandes felt endless anger in his heart. Hot and Lavanzi were the same. At the same time, the core disciples of the spiritual master tower, although in Radamandes and his heart, Hot's status was far inferior to that of his direct disciple Livens, but the fact that Wayne killed Hot under his eyes made him extremely angry. "Oh? Radamandes, you finally showed up. I haven't seen you for a long time." Seeing the arrival of Radamandes and Salskjaer, Wayne didn't have any panic on his face and just spoke indifferently. Radamandes, who was a low-level 9th level Holy Spirit Master back then, in order to avenge his disciple Haig, chased him from the Spirit Master Tower to the Cairo Empire in order to kill Wayne. For this Radamandes, Wayne is naturally very familiar with it. Okay, I have to admit, Wayne, you are very courageous. You actually dare to come here, and in these years, you have been promoted to the 9th level of Holy Spirit Master. I really didn't expect it. Radamandes' expression was cold, but, do you think that just because you have advanced to the 9th level of the Holy Spirit Master, you think you can rescue that Renault? It's really ridiculous. 18 years ago, because of the obstruction of the great man of the Cairo Empire, I couldn't kill you. This time I will kill you with my own hands," Radamandes said coldly. As he spoke, terrifying auras were continuously released from Radamandes' body. The terrifying pressure, like the coming of doom, made everyone present feel depressed. "Elder Radamandes, there is no need for you to take action personally. This Wayne dares to run wild in our Kamikaze Empire. As the elder of the Holy Land of Kamikaze Empire, I, Salskjaer, will never tolerate such arrogance." Beside Radamandes, Elder Salskjaer suddenly flew out, his fiery red robe flying around his body, his eyes cold. Faced with Salskjaer's offer, Radamandes did not refuse. Although he is a 9th level intermediate Holy Spirit Master, after Wayne's complete burst of strength, he can feel that this Wayne is a 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Master, but the astonishing combat power that Wayne showed before still makes Radamandes was a little wary. This vigilance does not mean that Radamandes is afraid of Wayne, but that he is worried that Wayne will only run for his life when he is outmatched, and he will escape. 18 years ago, he failed to kill Wayne and let Wayne survive. This time, Radamandes did not want what happened 18 years ago to happen again, and with Salskjaer with the elders looking around, Radamandes had nothing to worry about. For a moment, Radamandes and Salskjaer were at each other's throats, surrounding Wayne in the air. Mr. Radamandes from the Spiritual Master Tower and Elder Salskjaer from our Kamikaze Empire actually want to join forces to kill this Wayne. This Wayne is doomed. Yeah, I didn't expect this. Cairo, the former Ice Emperor of the Empire, was actually a Holy Spirit Master who had advanced to the 9th level. He had previously killed Hot, the core disciple of the Spirit Master Tower, with one strike. It was really terrifying, but that was all. In Radamandes, under the siege of everyone and Elder Salskjaer, he is bound to die. Sir Radamandes of the Spiritual Master Tower is a 9th level intermediate Holy Spirit Master, and Salskjaer of our Kamikaze Empire, although Elder Ye is only a 9th level low-level Holy Spirit Master, he advanced to the 9th level more than 20 years ago. Although Wayne is powerful, it is obvious that he has only made breakthroughs in recent years. Whether it is Lada, either one of Mr. Mendes and Mr. Salskjaer can ravage Wayne. Now that the two of them join forces, Wayne is doomed and unable to fly. This battle is really exciting. My blood is boiling. Being able to see the 9th level Holy Spirit Master level warriors fighting, my trip to Kilo province is not in vain. Looking at the sky, Radamandes and Salskjaer actually looked at each other. They want to join forces to deal with Wayne. Down below, the blood of countless people is boiling in their hearts and they are extremely excited. The 9th level Holy Spirit Master is simply a legendary figure for the ordinary people in the mainland. Even for the patriarchs of many major families in the courtyard of the Decre family mansion, it is definitely a rare and shocking figure. Characters. As for the battle between 9th level Holy Spirit Masters, many clan leaders present have never seen it once. Now that 2 masters of our own side are preparing to surround and kill Wayne and his group, how can they not be excited and excited? Kill me with your own hands? Wayne looked at Radamandes and Solskjaer coldly in the sky. So, you two want to join forces to deal with me? Radamandes, as a 9th level intermediate Holy Spirit Master and the elder of the dignified Spirit Master Tower, don't you even have the courage to fight me alone? Humph, Wayne, whatever you say, since you are here today, don't. If you want to go back alive, I will sacrifice your life next year today. Radamandes showed a cold smile on his face. Wayne, what else do you have to say now? I will give you a chance to say your last words. Next year today, is it my Memorial Day? An opportunity to say my last words? Haha. Wayne, who was surrounded by the 2 people, not only did not have the slightest fear on his face, but he couldn't help laughing. The next moment, Wayne's face turned cold. Radamandes, stop talking nonsense. Where is Renaud? Reno? As soon as Wayne's words came out, Radamandes and others were all he was stunned. Wayne, you are still thinking about Renaud when you are about to die. No matter how many times Radamandes thought about today's scene, he never thought that Wayne was wielding it here. Despite the situation, he was able to be so calm and still care about Renaud. Okay, since you care about Renaud so much, I will kill him in front of you first, and then you, so that you two can have a companion on the road to hell. Radamandes said coldly. He made a sound, then turned to Livens, behind him and said, Livens, bring that Renaud. Yes. Because of the arrival of Radamandes, Livens' mood returned to calm at this moment. Glanced viciously at Wayne, who was not far away, then turned around and flew towards the torture chamber, deep behind the mansion. At this moment, no need. Before Livens could move, a cold voice suddenly sounded in this world. This sudden sound was not loud, nor did it contain any terrible pressure, but it was such a calm, indifferent sound, so sudden and shocking in this silent world. Wow! The next moment, the entire Decker family mansion, including all the people in the entire Kike city, looked at the place where the voice came from. I saw 7 figures rising slowly in a corner of the Decre family mansion, like the scorching sun rising from the sea level. Each of these 7 figures exuded terrifying coercion. At this moment, everything in the world disappeared, as if they had suddenly entered the dark night. In everyone's eyes, they only saw that the 7 figures rising slowly, like 7 bright moons, became the only ones in this world, shining brightly. Among the 7 people, the leader is a young man in gray robe with long black hair. His eyes are as deep as the starry sky, and he carries a black heavy sword on his back. Although his figure looks a little thin, he gives people a strong impression. A feeling like Yung, majestic and tall. Behind the black-haired young man, there were 6 other figures. 5 of them looked quite young. Each of them was either soft, deep, cold, or sharp, with various auras present. It gives people an irresistible feeling. The last remaining person looked a little tired, as if he had just recovered from a serious injury, but the aura he had was no weaker than anyone else's. It was a kind of calmness that had been tempered many times and had gone through the vicissitudes of the world, giving people a feeling that it is like a sword in a sheath. If it is not born, once it is born, it will strike with thunder and shake the world. In everyone's shocked, dull, and astonished eyes, these 7 figures rose silently, with cold faces, and flew past Wayne, looking at Radamandes and others opposite. Seeing these 7 figures in the void, Radamandes and others suddenly opened their eyes as if they had seen a ghost, opened their mouths wide, and their eyes were full of shock. They wanted to say something, but they were too horrified to say anything. Who are these 7 people? Why are Lord Radamandes and Chief Livens so surprised when they see them? I know the middle-aged man who seems to be recovering from a serious injury. That is Todd. I had met the family's Renaud when Patriarch Lavanzi brought him back to Kike City, but I didn't know the other 6 young people. In the mansion of the Decre family, there are many clan leaders. The people in the center were talking aloud, speculating on the origins of these 6 people. Jason, you're not dead? Just as many clan leaders were shocked and guessing, in the ruins of the Decre family mansion below, Augustus, who had been seriously injured by Wayne before, was in an extremely embarrassed state, but his eyes widened in an instant, and he cried out in shock. Jason, Lanuigusan, Cassinus, Edmes, Caswall, Monofong, how could it be you? Didn't you die in the forbidden land of the 7-star sea? How could you execute almost at the same time? In the sky, Radamandes and Livens also came to their senses, uttering words of horror. In an instant, this title, like a thunderbolt from the blue, rumbled in the sky above Kike City, and the meaning contained in it shocked everyone immensely. What? Jason, is that little girl Jason? Didn't Jason hear that he was the core disciple of the spiritual medicine Master Tower and died in the mainland trial ground? Why did he appear here? And Lanuigusan and Cassinus, aren't they the most outstanding core disciples of the spiritual medicine Master Tower, and they all died in the place where geniuses are tested? For a moment, the entire Jike City was stunned. Everyone is in an uproar. These days, the most shocking thing in the continent is that except for the master of the spiritual medicine Master Tabasfama Tower, who was seriously injured by the 4 major forces headed by the master of the spiritual Master Tower Atkinson Tower. On top of that, it's also about the death of Jason and the others, genius disciples, from various major forces. Among them, Jason, Lanuigusan, Caswall, and Monica are the first geniuses among the 9 major forces in the mainland. They are the most evil geniuses in the entire continent. Their names are on the continent. It has been discussed and recited by countless people, but now, these 6 people who should have fallen have appeared in front of everyone again. How can it not be shocking? Did he die in the forbidden land of the 7-star sea? Among the crowd, Jason slowly flew forward and faced Elder Radamandes alone with a cold expression. Elder Radamandes, I'm sorry to disappoint you. Yes, we are not dead, but I regret to tell you that today, you will definitely die. Jason's eyes were sharp, and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. Am I bound to die? In the sky, Radamandes, who was originally shocked and dull, finally came to his senses at this moment, and said with a somewhat enlightened expression, I remember, the deputy master of the Kara Tower once said, you guys, it's Jedi number 9 who entered the forbidden area of 7-star sea. I didn't expect that you guys escaped. It's really a surprise. It's a pity that if you had hid obediently, no one might know that you are still alive. Now, you still dare to show up. You have also appeared in the Kamikaze Empire. I think you are looking for death. Elder Radamandes, is he Jason? Atkinson Tower Master was ranked first on the kill list, the most genius? Elder Salskjaer looked at Jason with a sneer on his face, you dare to enter the hinterland of our Kamikaze Empire. It's so outrageous. As an elder of the Kamikaze Empire, I, Salskjaer, will let you go today. You know the consequences of entering my Kamikaze Empire. After Elder Salskjaer finished speaking, his whole person suddenly moved. The 9th level low-level, holy spiritual power erupted from his body. In an instant, all the fire spiritual power in the world was violent. Now, because of Wayne's intervention, the weather seemed to be in the cold winter, and suddenly it was like the scorching heat of August. The terrible heat wave rolled in, and the whole world seemed to have turned into a furnace, and there was terrible everywhere. The flames were surging. In the endless flames, Elder Salskjaer seemed to have turned into a flame war god, dragging a long tail of flames, aiming at Jason, who was flying forward alone, and took action brazenly.